Hey y'all, today we have a video full of fun Halloween treats. Hey y'all, today we are making 4 fun, fantastic, and fabulous Hocus Pocus inspired treats. That's what we're making, and we're making 4 of them, y'all. So I'm so excited. Let's get started. Okay, the first thing you're going to need to do is make a pan of brownies. Now, don't judge me. I'm making a box of brownie mix. I'm using a box of brownie mix, y'all, making my life a little easier. But you can make homemade if you want to. The only thing I will say is make sure that you grease your pan real well, and then make sure that you use a 9x13 pan, because for these recipes we're making, we don't want the brownies to be super thick. We need them to be a little bit thinner for us to be able to do what we need to do. So just bake them according to your box directions, and then let them cool down on your counter, and then we're going to pop them in the refrigerator for about an hour just to make them a little easier to fool with. Now, I want to let y'all know that this video is part of a collaboration with some wonderful channels hosted by Crafting with Indiana Jones, so make sure you check out the description box for a fun playlist full of videos. We got cooking, crafts, games, all kinds of stuff, y'all, so make sure you check that out. Once your brownies come out of the refrigerator, we're going to need to cut them. Now, for this video today, I am making 4 of each of the little things that I need the brownie mix for. I'm making 4 books and 4 black cats. So I'm going to have more than enough brownies, which I'm not mad about. I'll just snack on the rest. So what you're going to need to do is cut the middle part of your brownies. You don't want the edges for what we're doing, because you know the edges are a little chewier, a little bit harder, so it's going to be harder to deal with if you have an edge for these projects, these recipes, which y'all I wasn't real mad about, because the edges are my favorite. I'm an edge gal. Y'all let me know down in the description box, do you like the middle brownie? Do you like the corner piece? I like the corner piece, y'all. But anyway, so we're going to go ahead and cut out 4 books, okay? Just 4 little triangles. I keep saying triangle, but that is not a triangle. That's a rectangle, y'all. I don't know my shapes. Don't judge me for that either. Anyway, cut your 4 books out, and then we're going to cut out 4 kitty cats. Now, I just have a little kitty cat cookie cutter. It's a little small one. You can use whatever you have. If you got a whole lot more talent than I do, you can just freehand cut you a little cat head or something out of your brownies if you want to. But I had this little tiny cookie cutter, and I thought this would be perfect to make my little Thackeray Binks. Okay? So go ahead. Look how cute he is, y'all. Look at the little kitty. He's so precious. Anyway, y'all, I need a nap. Just ignore me. There ain't no telling where this video is going. So anyway, go ahead and cut out however many. Now, like I said, I only used about half the pan for just the amount that I made. But if you're making these for a crowd, you can make a ton of cats out of a can of brownies. Or you can make like 12 of the little books out of 1 pan of brownies. So it'll make a whole lot, depending on how many people you have to feed, you know, and what you're doing with it. So once we get all our little things cut out, and you see my books they're not perfectly square, they're cut sort of in a rectangle so they look like a book. So you're going to need some black cookie icing with a little narrow tip on it, and I got that at Walmart, and some candy eyeballs. That's what we're going to need for our books, okay? So to get started, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit for y'all so y'all can kind of see a little bit better what I'm doing. So if you've ever seen the movie Hocus Pocus, you know they have a spell book that she calls book, and she says, "Oh, book," and her book comes running. So anyway, I'm trying to recreate the book. Now on the book, it's made, don't get grossed out, y'all, but it's made from, you know, flesh. It's not gross. It's a funny movie, so don't think it's a crazy horror movie with a bunch of gross stuff in it, because it's not. It's a cute movie. But that's what the book's made of. So the brownie, the texture of the brownie is perfect for that. And I'm just drawing on the stitches of the book, you know, how they held the book together. Now, the little squiggly line in the movie is a snake. There's a snake that runs down the book. And there's, you know, all kinds of other things. But it's a little bitty brownie, and I'm kind of limited on what I can do. So I'm not an artist by any means. So I did the best I could with what I had. So I put his eyeball on. And then I'm just going to put some little X's across the straight line and make what looks like some little stitches. Okay? So that is going to be our little spell book. Y'all, isn't that cute? I was kind of impressed with myself because, like I said, I have zero crafty talent, and I thought my books turned out pretty cute. Now, this gel icing, though, y'all, it'll get tacky and won't move after just a minute or so, but then in a couple of hours, it'll set up. It doesn't get hard, but it'll be solid enough that it doesn't, you know, you can even stack the cookies and it doesn't mess them up. So now we're going to make our little kitty cats, and in the movie, the little black cat, if you've seen it, his name is Thackeray Binks. So we are making some little Thackeray Binks brownies. Now, I tried this with cookies, but we'll talk about that in a little bit when that pops back up in a minute. But what I did with him is I could have just left him brown, but he is a black cat. So I thought I'm going to go ahead and use some of this icing because I had plenty left over, and I'm going to make my cat a black cat. So I just outlined it and filled it in and just spread it around with a toothpick. And again, it's going to set up in a minute. Now, I wanted to give him some eyes, so I found this little thing of sprinkles that I had, and I found some little round yellow eyes. And look, his eyes are wonky, don't judge me. But then I put just a little dab of that black icing on there to make, you know, the pupils in his eye. Okay, so now we're going to make our black flame candle. And again, this is a big thing in the movie, the black flame candle. So I thought, how can I do a hocus pocus video and not make a black flame candle? You have to, right? I just had to. So what I'm using are just some like peanut butter fudge covered cookies. You just need some sort of a flat little black cookie because we need a base for our candle. Now, and then I found these little rolled cookies, and I just got a little box of those. And so that's what I'm going to make my candle from. But when I set it up there, I thought the proportions did not look good as tall as this cookie was. So I broke them in half. And then when I set it back on there, I thought that looks way more proportionate than, you know, the full, really tall cookie. Plus, I wasn't real sure if the tall one would stand, you know, would hold together as well. So I sat them up there just to sit them up there. But I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of this icing, and I'm going to put it on the bottom of these cookies just to use as kind of a glue to hold my cookie to my cookie. To hold my cookie to my cookie, y'all. Y'all see what I'm doing, you know what I'm saying. Now, originally my thought was I was going to melt some chocolate chips and use that as the glue, but then I thought to myself, I already have this out. It'll work just the same, so I'm going to use this. But if you don't have this icing and you're using something different that wouldn't work for this, you can melt just, you know, a couple of chocolate chips, just enough to put a little dab on there to hold your round cookie to your chocolate cookie. So, of course, now we have a candle, so we need candle wax. Now, if y'all are thinking the same thing that I thought after I did this, is we're making a black flame candle. Why are you using white chocolate chips? Well, there's a good reason for that, because I didn't think about it. Didn't think about it, y'all. But we just ran with it, okay? I ran with it. I did what I had to. So what we're going to use for our flame are sliced almonds. I was trying to think of what I could use that would be shaped sort of like a candle flame, and this was the only thing I could really think of that was something that was edible that would really work. So, of course, it's a black flame candle, so we have to turn these almonds black somehow, right? So what I originally did, which you'll see right here that 2 of them are black, I bought some of the like edible ink, like the pens, and I guess because the almonds are kind of waxy, the pens were not, they just weren't working. So I pulled out the trusty black cookie ice in there, and I put a little dab on there on each one of my flames, and then I just used the toothpick again and just spread it out. And I didn't put it all the way to the bottom because we're going to have to sit our flame down in the white chocolate wax. So you don't have to color the whole thing, and that way you kind of have something to hold on to. But do them ahead of time and let them dry a little bit so that you'll be able to pick them up without getting this all over you. So once we get our white chocolate melted, I know it's kind of hard to see with this crazy light I've got, but we're going to go ahead and just put just a little dollop of this white chocolate chip goo on top of each one of our candles. And of course we want it to be a little bit messy because we want it to look like the wax is dripping down our candle. Y'all, I tell you what, people can come up with some really good stuff. Now, I've done this before. My granddaughter's birthday is in October, and we had a Halloween party for her one time. And so I made some candles out of pool noodles, and then I used hot glue for the wax and painted it all black, and it was super cute. So I had kind of done this before, sort of, not with food, but you know what I mean? So I was okay doing this part. So once I got that on there, if there was a part that needed to be moved around or make it drip a little bit more, I just used my trusty little toothpick and just maneuvered it around until I got it where I needed it. So once you get your white chocolate on there, go ahead and set your little flames down on each one of your candles. And that's all there is to this, y'all. If you put your flame on, though, and you can still see the white part of your almond, just kind of put a little of the wax part of your candle, just kind of put it up your almond just a little bit, and that'll take care of that. So don't worry about it. You can always fix it, y'all. You can always fix it. But anywho, now we're going to move on to our dead man's toes. Now, we're going to use some sugar cookie dough for this. And originally I was going to use this sugar cookie dough for my cats also. But when I put my little cats that were so cute in the oven, they spread out and became monster kitties. They were just flat and you couldn't even tell what they were. So I thought, let me kind of press these down a little bit, and that way they won't spread so much, you know, when I put them in the oven. And what is a toe without a toenail, right? So what I did for the toenail is I took half of a pecan and I just shoved it down in there, just kind of pressed it down into the cookie dough, and then made little toes. Now, don't these look cute, y'all? They look like little toes. They're little fat toes with little crusty toenails on them. And then I put them in the oven, and that happened. Y'all, they look like, I don't know what they look like, ogre toes or something. I don't know what. I was just like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this did, because I did this at the same time I did the cats. I didn't do one and then the other, and it all kind of happened at the same time. Y'all, I was so upset. Then I was like, well, Lord, let me at least try to break them apart. But then when I was breaking them apart, I realized they were still soft and mushy, so I could kind of manipulate them with my hands. So that's how I saved the dead man's toes. I just kind of maneuvered it around until I got them back into the shape of a toe. And then I took a toothpick and I laid across the top to make like the little toe knuckle. And they do look like fingers still, but for our purposes, they're toes. And here are our little books. You can see that our icing dried. But y'all, don't they look so cute? If you've ever seen the movie, let me know if you think this looks like book. Let me know. Be honest. You won't hurt my feelings. And here are our little Thackeray Binks, kitty cats, our little brownies. And then last but certainly not least, we have our black flame candles. Y'all, this video was so fun to make. I had so much fun. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I was like, this Halloween, I have a YouTube channel now, and I'm going to make all my fun snacks and put it on my YouTube channel. I was so excited to get the opportunity to participate in this collaboration and do my Hocus Pocus stuff. Hey y'all, today we're making some family-friendly treats for Halloween. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to make are some Screamin' Ghost donuts. So what you're going to need is a can of biscuits. Now, you can use the regular size biscuits, but for some reason, my store is so random. They didn't have any. No regular size. So I had to get the jumbo. The kids were not mad about it when I tell you. They was ready for them powdered donuts. They were not mad about it. So we just went with what we had. because that's what we do around here, y'all. We go with what we got. So what you're going to need to do is roll these donuts out pretty flat. You don't want them super thick. Now, you don't have to get them, you know, where you can read through them either, but just get them, you know, pretty rolled out. And then you're going to cut them out. But just make sure that you roll them out into sort of an egg shape, because we don't want these to be perfectly round. But if they're not perfectly shaped, that's okay. No, they don't have to be the same. So what I did to cut the eyes out was I took just like an icing tip, like the, you know, that you put in a piping bag that I don't own. You know, y'all know. But anyway, I used that for the eyes because it was just the perfect size. And then I used a shot glass for the mouth. So you can use whatever you have around your house. If you don't have anything, then freehand it. It's not going to matter. They're going to be cute anyway, y'all. So look, I'm not using my good mat. I'm using just my baking sheet mats. And we rolled so hard on these, they stuck down to the mat. But next time I'll know to use the good mat, y'all. But what you're going to do is just get them off your mat, and then you're going to stretch them from the top and the bottom. And that way, they look like they're screaming. Y'all, isn't that not the cutest thing ever? Now look, you can deep fry these if you want to, if you prefer deep fried donuts. But we did ours in the air fryer, and they turned out perfect. Y'all know I did donuts in the air fryer before, so we like them like that. So just stretch it out. All right, so now that we've got our ghost all stretched out and ready to go, we're going to put these in the air fryer for about 5 minutes. Just watch it. All air fryers cook a little different. But once they get, you know, once the biscuit is done, then you just pull them out. So let it get as brown as you want it to be. So then to make these ghosts, we're going to go ahead and we're going to cover these in powdered sugar because, you know, why not? Why not? You could probably use icing for these if you wanted to. If you wanted to make up like some vanilla or some sort of a white icing. But powdered sugar is this quick. It's very, very quick and it's very, very easy. So all I did was sprinkle a little powdered sugar right over the top of those biscuits. And that's it. This is so, so easy. And the kids were so tickled with these. Look at our body outline down there, down there on the mat, y'all. But look how cute those are. All right. So the next thing that we're going to make are some pumpkin patch dirt cups. Some pumpkin dirt patch cups. So we're making something with some pumpkins and some dirt, y'all. So what you're going to need to do is put 1 package of pudding. We're going to do 1 package, the regular size of chocolate pudding. Make it according to your package directions. Look, if you need to spill a little on the counter, then look, you do that. You do that. We don't care because you know what? It's all about the experience, and it takes 5 seconds to clean up a spill. You know what I'm saying? As long as the babies are happy and they're enjoying, you know, getting to spend time with Mimi in the kitchen, then we don't care. We ain't worried about the mess. So like I said, just make your pudding according to the package directions. Then you're going to need to put some Oreos now, or Twist and Shout, because y'all know I'm cheap and I use Great Value. But we're going to put those over in a Ziploc bag. Now, if you're using double stuffed, if that's what you have, you might want to take the cream out because it might be a little much. But if you're using the regular, you don't have to take the cream out. A lot of people do, but you don't have to. You're going to see in a minute that you don't even know there was ever any cream in there. Like it all just breaks up and mixes together just fine. So don't go through the headache of trying to take all these cookies apart and pull all that, you know, scrape all the stuff out of it, unless you just want to. Now, if you just want to eat the inside, look, there ain't no judgment here. You just do you, boo. So anyway, we're just going to go ahead and take whatever we have, and watching for little fingers, of course, and we're going to just mash our cookies up until we get dirt. So then we need to make our grass. So we're going to go ahead and dump a little bit of coconut right down in a Ziploc bag. And then we're going to drop in, I have like the gel food coloring. So I just put 2-3 drops down in there. Now, if you need to add more, or if you want yours a darker green, you certainly can. But this was fine for us because, you know, it's a treat, and we didn't care what color the green was. But look, now you have grass. So if you have any recipes that you need some fake grass for, but needs to be edible,
this is how you do it, y'all. You just, you know, do coconut. And if you wanted a different color, put a different color food coloring in there. But that's how you make it. It's real simple. Okay, so once we get those things ready, we're going to go ahead and add in 1 8-ounce container of Cool Whip right to our pudding. And you know, you don't have to do Cool Whip if you don't want to. It just kind of makes it go further and it makes it creamier. And look, little sis started stirring there and she was like, Mimi, I can't do this. Can you do it? So Mimi had to take over the pudding stirring, but that's okay because she was standing right up under me supervising, because that's her favorite thing to do is to supervise, honey. She is the boss of all of us. So anyway, you're just going to get that good and mixed up, and then we're going to be ready to put our little cups together. Now, we're going to take, this is I think a 1/4 cup measuring cup. So if you wanted to know how much I'm using, it doesn't matter. I just, you know, this is just what we did. But you can put however much you need to. If your cups are bigger, obviously you're going to use more. If your cups are a lot smaller, of course you're going to use a lot less. So just kind of go by your cup. You're just going to put a layer of dirt and then a layer of pudding. And you're going to keep going until you fill these all the way up. So the last layer, you're going to put on a little bit of dirt, and then you're going to sprinkle on your grass. And then I had some, you know, like these are like the candy corn pumpkins. You know what I mean? The ones that are, they're not called candy corn. They're called, I guess, candy pumpkins. I don't know. But anyway, that's what we used for our pumpkin patch, y'all. Okay, so the last thing that we're going to make is our mummy and spider web Rice Krispie treats. So all you're going to do is make these just like you make regular Rice Krispie treats. You're going to take a bag of mini marshmallows and about 3 tablespoons of butter. We're going to pop that in the microwave. I want to say I did mine for maybe 2 minutes, but put it in there and just kind of watch it. You know, you just need your marshmallows to get warm and your butter to melt. But if you make yours on the stove, I do that a lot too. This day, I just didn't feel like dragging the pot out. So you can definitely do this on the stove. All you're doing is making a batch of Rice Krispie treats. So I used a bag of marshmallows, 3 tablespoons of butter, and 6 cups of Rice Krispies if you need the measurements. So then I'm using cooking spray because I already had it out and there was no sense in me dragging butter out to try to do this. I waited until it was a little bit cool. Well, I didn't wait, but you know, once you kind of get the Rice Krispies mixed up a little bit, your marshmallow is usually cooled down enough to where you can touch it. I mean, it's still a little warm, so be very careful. I don't recommend everybody do this with their hands because I would never tell y'all to do that, but this is just the way I do it. So then I went ahead and just got it out of there and put it on a cookie sheet lined with parchment paper. Now, normally I do mine like in a 9 by 13 pan, but I wanted these to be thin, so that's why I did them on a cookie sheet. And I just pressed them out as flat as I could get them, and then I'm going to let them sit there until they're completely set up. And then I just took a knife, take however you cut your darn Rice Krispie treats, y'all. However you do it the way you do it. You're just going to need to cut these out. And you're just going to cut out as many as you need for whatever, you know, party you're having. So then I took some white chocolate chips because we need mummy bandages, right? So take some white chocolate chips and just put them in a little bowl. That's probably a 1/4, maybe a 1/3 of a cup. And I just melted those in the microwave. So once you get it all good and melted, you're going to need to put it in a piping bag. Now, y'all already know I'm not fancy enough to own piping bags. I will be one day, though. I'm going to shock y'all one of these days. But I'm using a Ziploc bag. But I do have these handy-dandy bag holders that are fantastic. So if you meal prep or you do stuff like this, these are a good investment. They're in my Amazon store if y'all are looking for any. They're pretty inexpensive, and I use them all the time. So anyway, you're going to go ahead and dump your white chocolate over in there, and you need to work fairly quickly because, you know, your chocolate's going to try to set up. Now, these darn Ziploc bags had a weird, like, double layer at the bottom. I don't know why they're doing that now, but it drives me nuts because it makes it very difficult for me to use them as piping bags. But I did the best I could. I am no artist by any means, y'all, but you know what? I did the best I could with what I with what I have, with a little talent that I have. But you're just gonna, you know, kind of zigzag on your mummy. to make the bandages. And then this one is going to be our spider web, but I wanted to lay down a layer of the white chocolate, just a real thin layer. So what is a mummy without eyeballs, right? So these are just some candy eyeballs I got at Walmart, but I hear they do have them at Dollar Tree also. I haven't found any at my Dollar Tree, but my sister says they do have them at Dollar Tree. So just wherever you can find little candy eyeballs will be just fine. So you're just going to put those on while your chocolate is still warm so they'll stick. Then you're going to need to let it dry before we make our spider web. So I'm using this black cookie icing. And this has been fantastic. I used it in my one of my other Halloween videos when we were doing the Hocus Pocus stuff. And it is wonderful. I will be buying this in any color I can find for any project that I need because it has lasted forever and it's so easy to work with. But like I said, y'all, don't judge my artistry because that ain't what we're here for. But I thought they turned out okay. They were okay. We got some mummies, we got some spider webs, we got snacks, y'all. So it's fine. It's going to be just fine. So y'all let me know down in the comments which one is your favorite and which ones of these are y'all going to try out. And don't forget to like this video, comment the word spooky so you'll be entered for a chance to win in the giveaway. Now, the last day is going to be October 31st because the drawing is going to be November 1st. But all those details are going to be down in the description box, so make sure you go down there and check all that out. Hey, y'all, today we're going to do a fun little twist on some classic Halloween treats. So the first thing we're going to make is s'mores popcorn balls. Now, of course, the traditional recipe would be plain popcorn balls. So we're going to make these s'mores just to put a little modern twist on them. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is pop some popcorn. Now, if you end up with kernels in your bowl, just make sure that you get those out. Same thing, you could use microwave popcorn for this if you wanted to, but just make sure that you get like the plain popcorn and make sure that you don't have any kernels in there because nobody wants to break a tooth on a popcorn ball. So what you're going to need is 10 cups of popcorn. Now, after we get our popcorn popped, we're going to melt down 1/4 cup of butter and then add in 1 full bag of mini marshmallows because, you know, we got to have the marshmallow part of our s'more, right? So go ahead and mix that around until all of your marshmallows are good and melted, okay? Just stir it constantly, just like if you were making Rice Krispie treats or something. Once you get it all melted, take it off the heat, and then you're going to add in about a teaspoon of vanilla. Stir that up real good, and then we're going to add in our popcorn right in here. So it'd be just like if you were making a Rice Krispie treat, except we're going to be using the popcorn and the other ingredients that we have. Does that make sense? So I measured out 10 cups of popcorn. And it's not salted. I didn't salt it or anything like that. I mean, I guess you could if you wanted to, but I didn't. So just plain old popcorn. Then you're going to add in 2 cups of Golden Graham cereal. Of course, I have the Great Value brand because it really doesn't matter. It's all the same thing pretty much. So just dump 2 cups of that in there. And then you're going to mix that up. Work pretty quick so you get all your marshmallow mixed in before it starts to, you know, dry up. Or not dry up, but like set, I guess. So just mix it up real good, and then you're going to take and dump that right onto a cookie sheet lined with some parchment paper. And that way we can get it to cool off just a little bit so that we're not burning ourselves when we're trying to put these popcorn balls together. Now, y'all know that Dutch oven weighs 1 billion pounds. You can see I'm kind of white knuckling it. I had to sit it down for a second and regroup. Had to get a hold of myself because, ooh, that thing was heavy. I was about to get the carpal tunnel. But anyway, just put that on your cookie sheet and let it cool down a little bit. So then what I did was I got another little piece of parchment paper because this is where I'm going to put our little popcorn balls. Now, of course, you can't have s'mores without chocolate, right? So what you're going to do is take about 1 cup of mini chocolate chips, and the original recipe that I found actually said roll your balls and then press the chocolate chips into them. But, you know, I feel like I know more than everybody. Not really. But on this day, I was like, well, I'll just sprinkle some in. And you can see I sprayed my hands with some cooking spray. Normally when I do like Rice Krispie treats, I'll butter up my hands, like rub some butter on them. but I had the cooking spray out, so that's what I used. So as you can see, my little chocolate chips are in there, but the problem with this method is that as I went along, the little bit of remaining heat that was in the marshmallows and then the heat from my hands, I started to kind of melt the chocolate just a little bit. So the first few were beautiful, but the last couple, they were still great. They tasted fantastic and they were fine, but they did have a little bit of melted chocolate on them. And of course, I made a big old mess on myself because I had just chocolate all over my hands and looked like I was a little kid that'd been out playing in the mud hole. You know, we used to spend summers at my grandma's house and she would give us old bowls and spoons to go make mud pies. That's what I felt like. Look, my hands, y'all. They're terrible. They was covered in chocolate. But anyway, that is all there is to these easy s'mores popcorn balls. And they are delicious, y'all. They are fantastic. You got to make these. Okay. Next thing that we're going to make is candy corn Rice Krispie treats. Now, of course, the classic part of this is candy corn, right? And what we're going to do is make our candy corn into Rice Krispie treats that look like candy corn. You know what I'm saying. You saw the picture. You know what I'm saying, but I'm going to show you how to do it. Now, it does take a couple of steps, but it's super easy. So first, you're going to line your little cake pan with some parchment paper because we want to be able to pull these out, later on without them sticking to the pan. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is spray your bowl that your cereal is going into, okay? And that way when we add the marshmallow stuff to it, it doesn't all stick to your bowl. So for the first layer, this is the yellow layer, we're going to need 2 1/4 cups of Rice Krispies. And then in another bowl, we're going to add in 2 1/3 cup of mini marshmallows. And don't worry if I don't say something. All of this is going to be down in the description box, all the measurements. So then you're going to add in 2 tablespoons of butter, and we're going to put that in the microwave for 1 minute. Okay, you see it's all fluffed up and everything. Go ahead and take that out of the microwave and stir it up real good. Now, as you can see, I still had a little bit of butter that wasn't melted. But if you do that, don't worry, the marshmallow's hot enough. Just keep stirring it and your butter will melt on down. I just didn't want to put it back in there and risk kind of burning my marshmallow. So then I decide that I'm going to pour this right over in here. And guess who forgot the food coloring? Yep, me. Watch, I'm going to catch myself. Whoop, look at there. Just in time. Just in the nick of time, y'all. So our first layer, like I said, is yellow. So what we're going to do, I have food coloring gel. So I just went ahead and put, I don't know, let me see, 1, 2, 3-ish drops in there. Just use ever how much you need until you get the color that you want it to be. And I thought this turned out the perfect shade of yellow. So then you're going to dump that into your Rice Krispies, and then we're going to mix that up until all of the Rice Krispies are coated in the yellow marshmallow. Now, I started mixing with the spoon, and it does take a little bit because they are kind of slipping around because your bowl is like greased, but don't worry about that. You need it to, you need that so they don't just stick to everything. So then what I decided to do was spray my hand a little bit, and at the very end, now I wouldn't do this from the beginning, but at the very end, I went ahead and just kind of mashed it around a little bit just to make sure that all of the marshmallow was covering the Rice Krispies. So then what you're going to need to do is spray your hands up again, and like I said, you can use butter or whatever for this, but I had the cooking spray out, so that was just the easiest thing for me to do. So what you're going to do is kind of get it in a little bit of a snake shape and just press it into your pan all the way around the edges and just fool with it, spread it out a little here, there, and all that until you get a solid ring. And then make sure that you press this down into your pan really good. Okay, now we're going to set that over to the side. So for the next ring, this is going to be our orange ring. You're going to need 1 1/4 cups of Rice Krispies. And we're going to set that to the side, just like the first time. Now, I didn't wash my bowl because I'm doing orange and I'm mixing red and yellow. I didn't feel the need to wash the bowl in between. Okay, so for this one, we need 1 1/3 cups of mini marshmallows and 1 tablespoon of butter. And that's going to go in for 45 seconds because we got a little bit less of everything. So then I added a couple of drops of yellow and a couple of drops of red. Now, if you have orange, that would be great, but I didn't, so I had to kind of make my own orange. And I did add a little bit too much red, but the good thing about this is it's pretty forgiving if you've ever had to like mix colors like this. So what I did is I was like, okay, this is not the color orange I want, so I went back and I added a little bit more yellow. So like I said, if you're mixing it with red and yellow, just keep going until you get the color you want. Then you're going to do the same thing. Dump that into your bowl, mix it up, and then the last few little things, I just mix it around with my hand to make sure everything was good and coated. So now we're going to bring our pan back over, and now we're going to make the second ring. So what you're going to do is basically what you did the first time, except you're going to put it inside of the yellow ring. Now you want to make sure that you leave enough space for the white ring in this. So just kind of, I'm sorry I went out of frame just a little bit, but see how I'm doing? Just press it down. And don't worry too much about what it looks like from this side, because what you're looking at from the top is actually the bottom. You'll see what I'm saying in a minute. Okay, so for the last one, we need 3/4 cup of Rice Krispies. And then we're going to need 1 1/4 cups of the mini marshmallows. Now, I did change bowls at this point because these need to be white and I didn't want them to be, you know, orange or red or yellow or anything. So then you're going to put in a 1/2 tablespoon of butter, pop that in the microwave for about 30 seconds. And then same thing, we're going to go ahead and we're going to just mix this up. Now, I've seen some of these, some recipes that make the candy corn rings, and they actually take the end, like this end, what's going to be the tip of, you'll see in a minute. But instead of just leaving it like this, they actually dip it in white chocolate. But I kind of didn't really feel the need to do that. I think they turned out just fine, just like this. Now, they're not stark white, of course, but it's good enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter. So, last thing, we're going to go ahead, like the same thing we did with the other two. We're going to mix this up real good. Mix it around with your hand to make sure everything's good and coated. We're going to bring our rings back over, and then we're going to put this right in the center. And all I did was just take the big old glob of it, put it in the middle, and just press it down. Because like I said, this is going to be the bottom. So we don't need to worry about this looking perfect. So just press it in there. You just want to make sure that you've got it pressed in there tight enough that it's all going to hold together and your rings are not going to fall apart when you cut them. Does that make sense? So once you get this part done, you're going to want to let this sit for at least an hour maybe, until everything is completely cooled down. Okay, so once, see there, it's not perfect from the bottom, but I'm gonna show you when we flip it. Okay, after about an hour, I went ahead and pulled it out of my pan, and that's why we use the parchment paper, so it all comes out in one piece. Now I'm putting a little paper towel under there because I did grease that parchment paper, and I didn't want the grease all over my counter, so I just kind of wiped up the bottom. So you're just going to peel your paper away just real carefully. And then we're going to flip this over. So now you're going to see the pretty part. Now see how that is nice and even? So don't worry about what the top that you're looking at looks like when you're in the process of making it, because we're going to flip it, and the bottom part is the part that's going to be pretty. So then I just took a big old knife and I just cut these into triangles. And y'all, are these not so adorable? And of course they taste good, because who doesn't love a good Rice Krispie treat? But look how cute these are. This is a very cute twist, I think, on a classic, you know, a classic Rice Krispie treat or a classic candy corn. You got both right here in one. All right, so last but certainly not least, we are going to make caramel apple grapes. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is, of course, get you some grapes. Now, this time of the year, the grapes are not the best. So I didn't get the cute little fat round grapes because we didn't have any. I had to get these long skinny grapes, but you know what? I had to work with what I had. You're going to want to make sure your grapes are very, very dry, because otherwise your caramel sauce is not going to stick. Then you're going to take a toothpick and stick it into the pretty end, because the ugly end of your grape, we want that covered in caramel, and we don't want anybody to see that, okay? So this recipe is my twist on, obviously, candy apples. Now, I love candy apples. The problem with candy apples is they're so big, they're hard to eat. They're hard to eat, and like sometimes the caramel is so hard you can't even bite through it. So this is what I decided to do. So what I did was I took some of these caramel bits, and I halved this recipe because what it calls for is 50 grapes, and I wasn't making 50 grapes. So I'm going to put the original recipe down in I'm going to put what I did down in the description box, but just know that this is half of the recipe. So you need a half a cup of those caramel bits and 1 tablespoon of heavy cream. Now, if you don't have heavy cream, I'm sure milk would be just fine. All right, so what we need now is some stuff to coat our candy apples, right? So you can use like crushed nuts, like peanuts or cashews, pecans. You can use whatever you want. What I decided to use, because it's what I had on hand, was some graham crackers. So what I did was I just took my little graham crackers and I crushed them up pretty fine, but don't worry if they have a little bit of like little chunks in them, because it's not gonna matter. So then I found this granola I had. I'd forgotten I had this. Or I didn't forget I had it, but I wasn't thinking about using it for this. So I took out, it's a kind of a vanilla granola. So I took some of the big clusters out and I just broke them up, you know, with a little masher there, with a meat masher. What is that thing called? I can't think of what it's called, but anyway, y'all let me know down in the comments. Okay, so now this is what I'm going to use to dip our candy apples in. So all I did was I took the caramel bits and the cream, and I put it on the stove, and I just let it heat up till it was melted. It doesn't take but just a minute. So what I decided to do was dump it into a bowl, because I figured maybe partway through this was going to start to harden up. And if I had it in a bowl, I could just pop it back in the microwave to loosen it up rather than trying to put it back on the stove. And I did have to do that partway through doing this. So just know that, you know, that you may have to reheat your caramel at some point. So then I just went ahead and dipped my grapes down in my caramel, and then I rolled them around in the little toppings I made, and then I just stuck them on a little plate. Now you can see my poor little grapes, y'all. They were so long and skinny that I was struggling trying to get them to stand up. But I did some in the graham cracker, some in the granola, and then some I just did plain. So good, y'all. This is what they look like when they come out. Don't they look like tiny little caramel apples? Well, maybe not mine because they're so tall and skinny, but if you had little short fat grapes, they would definitely look like little candy apples. But these are perfect for people, you know, appetizers, just for people to grab. And then let's not forget about those yummy s'mores popcorn balls. These are so good, y'all. So, so good. They taste just like if you were going to eat a s'more, but easier, just way easier, and everybody loved them. And then last, but certainly not least, is our little candy corn Rice Krispies. Y'all, these recipes turned out so cute, and I loved the little twist on the classics that I came up with. So I hope that you love them as much as I do.
Hey y'all, today we're making popcorn balls. Alrighty, y'all. So the first thing that we're going to need to do, of course, is make us some popcorn. So, excuse my voice. I'm still a little congested, but we're going to get through this together because we got to get started on our Halloween stuff, right? It's going to be here before we know it, even though it's 800 degrees outside still, but I'm trying to get y'all ready. We got to get in the spirit. We got to get everything ready, right? Okay. So what we're going to do first is go ahead and get our popcorn pot. Now you're going to need a total of 25 cups of popcorn for this recipe. And I wasn't real sure how much popcorn was going to make, how many kernels, you know, how much kernels was going to make 25 cups of popcorn. Does that make sense? Whatever I'm trying to say, y'all. But I thought if I overdo it, we can always just eat the popcorn, you know. So I just went ahead and popped what I thought might be. But some things may have measurements, or you may could even Google what the measurements would be of how many kernels you need for X amount of popcorn, cups of popcorn. But anyway, y'all, long story long, because I just drug that out forever, you're going to need 25 cups of popcorn. Now, if you don't have a popcorn maker, if you don't have a trusty, crusty popcorn maker like I do, then you can always use microwave popcorn. You're just going to need 25 cups. And make sure, I know y'all saw those kernels in the bottom of my bowl, make sure that you transfer this, shake it around, whatever you need to do to make sure you don't have kernels in with your popcorn, because nothing is worse than biting into a popcorn ball and biting into a hard old kernel and cracking a tooth. Okay, once you get your popcorn made, just sit it over to the side till we're ready for it, and you're going to get your caramel sauce made. Now, we're going to need 2 sticks of butter. Drop those right into your pot. You're going to need about a medium-sized pot for this. Drop that in there, let that start melting. Now, y'all, this recipe is so easy. I hope y'all make this because it turned out so good. Okay, let's get on with it. So now you're going to need 2 cups of packed brown sugar. Be careful putting your brown sugar in that butter so that you don't splash yourself. Just be real careful. Then we're going to add in a cup of light corn syrup. And I have the Karo syrup. I don't even know if there's another kind. I mean, if they have a great value, I probably should have bought that, but I didn't even see one. When I looked up corn syrup, this is what popped up, so that's what I got. So you're just going to need a cup of that. Go ahead and put that right into your pot, and be very careful because this is a lot of sugar, a lot of sticky, and a lot of butter in this pot, and you don't want it to start sticking and burning. Because you know, sugar likes to burn if you walk away from it. So I stopped for just a second and went ahead and stirred that in a little bit. My butter still wasn't quite melted, but it was getting hot, and I didn't want, like I said, my sugar to start burning. So then you're going to add in a half a cup of white sugar. Now, y'all already know what you're thinking, diabetes. You know what? Maybe. If you're diabetic, this may not be the recipe for you, honestly. But this is it's a popcorn ball. It's for Halloween. It's a special occasion. The kids are going to be eating 800 pounds of candy anyway. So popcorn ball ain't going to hurt them. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so what you're going to need to do, bring that to a boil, and we're going to let that boil until it reaches a temperature of about 240 degrees. Now, ideally, you'd have a candy thermometer to check that. I don't have a candy thermometer, y'all. Guess what I have? A meat thermometer. So that's what I used. I figure it was going, it checks temperature, so, same thing, right? So that's what I used. Got it to 240 degrees. Then I added in a tablespoon of vanilla. Be very, very careful when you add vanilla to a hot pot, because a lot of vanilla has alcohol in it, y'all, and we don't want to catch the house on fire. Most recipes will tell you to add your vanilla after you've removed it from the heat. This one did not, so I was trying to follow the rules. But just be careful, y'all. Then you're going to add in 1 14-ounce can of sweetened condensed milk. And you're going to stir that around, and then we're going to let it come back to a boil and boil it for 1 minute. So if you do not have a thermometer, what you can do is when you get it to where you think it's going to take about 5 to 7 minutes, somewhere around in there. If you get it to where you think it's ready, take a little bit of off your spoon, drop it into a cup of cold water, and if it forms a little ball and you can kind of pick it up out of your water and kind of have a soft ball in your hand, it's ready, okay? So that's another way that you can check it, okay? So like I said, we're going to mix this around real good, and you see how light it's gotten from that condensed milk. Again, like I said, this ain't low fat, y'all, but once a year. We're going to eat them once a year. We're all going to be okay. So go ahead and remove that from the heat once it's boiled for a minute. Then we're going to need to let that cool down. Go ahead and do this because I forgot. Spray your popcorn bowl with a little cooking spray, because when we put that caramel in there, we don't want it to stick all over that bowl. But y'all, you need to let the caramel sauce cool down a little bit, because if it's too hot when you pour it over your popcorn is just going to melt. It's just going to disintegrate into nothing. So let it sit for about 5 minutes. Now, you don't want to let it cool completely, because then it's just going to be a big ball of caramel, right? So let it cool down. What I did was I took a little handful of popcorn, put it in a small bowl, and then put some of the caramel over top of it. And that way, if it was too hot, I only wasted a cup of popcorn and not this entire huge batch, okay? So that's how I tested mine to see if it was ready. Real professional, I know, but you know what? It worked for me. So I went ahead, and this is not all of the popcorn I had, but this is the biggest bowl I had, so I kind of had to do it in, you know, in increments. So I poured it over my popcorn and I mixed it around until all my popcorn was good and coated. And then by then it had shrunk down enough where I could see I could add the rest of my popcorn. And like I said, it ends up being a total of 25 cups. And I measured it for y'all so I could tell you exactly how much you would need. See what I do for y'all? I'm so nice. But anyway, 25 cups of popcorn. So then I went ahead and just poured the rest of my little caramel sauce right over the top of that popcorn. And then I'm going to mix it up until everything is good and coated. Now, we'll tell you again, this is going to be the second time we're going to have to let this cool down a little bit. You're going to have to make these popcorn balls with your hands. So, of course, wash your darn hands. Make sure your hands are clean before you stick them in somebody's food. Use gloves if you're making them for a huge crowd of people you don't know. I was making these for my family, so I didn't put gloves on. But my hands are clean. So what I'm going to do to cool this down so I don't burn my fingerprints off is I took some parchment paper and put it over a cookie sheet, and I'm just going to pour my caramel popcorn right onto that cookie sheet. Now, I will tell you, now I have not tested this, but this is what Google told me. If you take a big pan, like, well, a bigger pan than this probably, and like spread this out, you can bake this in your oven. I don't remember the temperature or anything, y'all, because like I said, I've never done it. But you can bake this, and you know how you get popcorn like in the tins at Christmas or even in the bags where it's crunchy caramel popcorn? Well, that's how you would make it. You would just put it kind of in a, I don't remember the temperature, so I'm not going to tell y'all. But you can bake it in the oven for a little bit, and you can have crispy popcorn if you want it. But we're making popcorn balls. But I was just telling y'all that so you'd know. Knowledge is power, right? Okay, so now that my popcorn has cooled down just a little bit, now it's still hot. I only let it sit on that cookie sheet for about 5 minutes. I went ahead and sprayed my hands with some cooking spray. Now you can use butter, oil, cooking spray, whatever you want to use to keep this from sticking to your hands. The cooking spray was already out, so that's what I used. You're going to gather up a handful of popcorn, and this ends up being about a cup of popcorn for each popcorn ball, roughly. I didn't measure that, but that's roughly about what I feel like it is. It's going to make a total of 18 popcorn balls. Now, if you're counting, if you're one of those and you're counting how many popcorn balls I'm making, you're going to see 17. Why? Because I tested it, remember? I took some and put into a bowl to make sure that our caramel wasn't too hot. So that's where our 18th popcorn ball went. But this recipe does make 18 popcorn balls. So you're going to go ahead and just roll all your little popcorn balls out. Roll them into balls, press them together. Now, because they're still warm, and this is a soft popcorn ball, it's going to be a chewy popcorn ball. It's not going to be hard. So it's going to, some of your popcorn balls may try to fall apart. And I had about 3 that were problem children. But all you have to do is every few minutes go back in there. If you've got any that are kind of falling apart, just press them right back into a ball again. Once they cool down completely, they're not going to fall apart. They're going to completely hold their shape. But as they're cooling, because they're still warm, they're going to, you know, some of them may try to come apart on you. So just go back, like I said, every little bit and just press them back together if you need to. So, but that's it, y'all. These popcorn balls are so ooey and gooey and chewy and delicious. And like I said, once a year, we're going to treat ourselves. We're going to have some caramel popcorn balls, but they're super easy to make, y'all. And look, go impress your friends and family and bring some homemade popcorn balls. I bet if you're anything like me, you haven't had these since you were a kid, right? Little Miss What's-Her-Name used to always, the little old lady with the blue hair, she used to always make popcorn balls, and that was our favorite stop, y'all.